Yo, what's going on, Mike?
Hey, nice to see you again, man.
Nice to see you.
What's happening
Exciting,
today?
exciting stuff going on with Apple entering the market. I mean, I think it's a pretty big shake up to the whole scene. I'm not sure if we're going to even be able to get to everything that Apple is potentially going to get to. Granted, I think some of it is going to be speculative, but I'm definitely looking forward to diving into that. Any
Yeah,
thoughts?
I'm an Apple fanboy, so anything they put out, I'm super interested in. So I think we got a lot of good stuff for today's episode.
Sure. So let me start by just setting a little bit of the context of today. Today we're going to be discussing Apple's credit card, and they just released it, I believe 2 days ago. It is March 27th. That would have been March 25th, 2019. And Apple, since the iPhone, which is basically the most profitable product of all time, it's just an incredibly productive asset in the Apple arsenal of products. They're looking for ways to grow their services offerings. And they've been talking for a really long time about getting into the services market. This is sort of how they're appeasing the people on Wall Street about the future of Apple. It's not just hardware, it's services. And Apple is in a great spot with that because they really own two key characteristics. The first is trust, and the second is trust that the design and the quality of the product is going to be really high. And that's going to be something I'm going to come back to here in a little bit. But the other area I want to explore for a second to set the scene here before we get into the Apple Card, what it's about and what it does, is that Apple Pay is a silent, sort of sleeping potential giant that has just been growing a lot in the background. I think people don't understand, or maybe they underestimate, the more and more merchants that accept Apple Pay, the more and more points of sale that accept Apple Pay. I saw Japan's major public transportation systems started taking Apple Pay. The more friction Apple's removing from the process of payments, I think it just bodes really well for where Apple's headed in the future of being this service provider for their customers that's trusted, that provides a good experience. So I think, my take initially before we get to the card is that Apple Pay very much could be the future. I think Apple's brand is very much positioned to be a place where you hold your money because they're trusted and because they know that they're going to remove that friction, like how they're doing with Apple Pay. And I don't want to get into too much more, I guess, before you give us the breakdown, but I think it helps to understand that Apple is trying to move into services. They have a brand that's going to allow them to slowly and then all of a sudden be a bank or be a payment service provider. So give us the breakdown. What is this Apple Card, and what are the features, and what's the information that we know now about it?
Yeah, so right now, if you go to Apple's site, they're saying this is coming this summer. So that's as much as we know about when it's launching. You can actually sign up to be notified when you can actually get the ball rolling. So if you want to go to their site and get subscribed to that, there's so many features with this thing. Their claim is that it's the smartest credit card that's ever been. So I bucket the category, or the core features, into three main buckets. Integration features is what I'm calling it. So these are features that derive from it being linked to your iPhone and the apps kind of already there. Actual card features, so the physical card, the free structure, and so forth. And then the last one I'm calling rewards. So how are they incentivizing you to use this? So to kind of get into the details of the integration features, like you said, integrated into Apple Pay, which means you can approve transactions with your Face ID or Touch ID. So really no need for a physical card at that point. Your face and your thumbprint are the approvals there, which is pretty awesome. They have a pretty intuitive spending summary, which kind of breaks down your spending in ways that you probably already think about it. So they break it into time frames, either spending by week, spending by month, how much are you spending on Saturday versus how much are you spending on Monday, and they actually break it down into categories as well. So almost like in a personal accounting system. So they'll show you what are you spending on food and drinks, what are you spending on entertainment. They also integrate into the Maps functionality, which will show you where you've made purchases. So I'm not sure how that's going to be super useful, but it's a feature that they're touting. They also have kind of a really intuitive payment advisor. So, with any credit card, you need to make payments to pay down your liability there. So they kind of have a dial that allows you to, if you think of like the old Circle iPod, original iPod, you can kind of dial up how much you'd like to pay, and it's going to show you how that's going to impact the interest rates that you'll pay. So really easy way to kind of get a handle on how much interest am I going to pay if I pay a little bit more, or how much am I going to pay if I pay a little bit less. So I think that's pretty cool. They integrate payment reminders right into your phone. So that's a piece that, if you have a credit card, you've probably at some point forgotten to make your payment, and, it being disconnected with, your normal communication device. It's an opportunity for Apple to kind of own that and help you make fewer mistakes financially. So that's pretty cool. And then the last piece is the real-time fraud protection. Your main messaging device is already your phone. So it's great that it's, integrated into your phone so that, if there's weird spending behavior, they'll identify that right away and send you a message and kind of ask if it was you. So those are the integrated features. As far as the actual card, it's a card issued by Goldman & Sachs. It's a MasterCard, and they say no fees. So no fees for anything. So again, we've talked about this many times. Anytime we can, as consumers, get fees taken away, it's always going to be a positive. So it's good to see Apple go this route. The bad news is the interest rates, there's still a credit card. They're still pretty, in my opinion, sharky, 13.24% to 24.24% is the range that they're advertising at this point, and that's based on your credit worthiness. So there's still a credit card. You're still going to pay interest. It's still not great rates, but that's that. So it's positioned as an iPhone first card, so no physical card needed. But for places that require a card, there is a pretty beautifully designed, as you would expect from Apple, titanium laser etched card. And it's got a ton of security and privacy features built into that. I'm not going to get into all the details of that, but it's basically the most secure way to transact. There's no card number, can't be stolen. Lots of good features there. And then the last kind of set of features I'd like to get into is the rewards. So, why use this card? Apple's using a term called daily cash, and it's basically cash back for any purchases that you spend. They give you 3% back on everything you buy from Apple, 2% back every time you use something that, anytime you buy from a vendor that uses Apple Pay, and then 1% for everything that doesn't accept Apple Pay. And it's called daily cash because you don't have to wait an entire month to get your points back or your rewards back. Apple gets it to you, kind of real time within 24 hours. So I thought that was a pretty cool feature. What do you think about this, David?
Yeah, so the Apple fanboys, I think, have this impression, and we saw this a little bit on Twitter. There's kind of this paradox a little bit of wow, what if Apple becomes a bank? And I think there's a lot of that narrative starting to bubble up a little bit, this huge potential. But then on the flip side, you look at what the offering is, and it's pretty standard. Aside from the beautiful card, which is a very Apple-like move, kudos to them for making that beautiful, for simplifying it. Like you said, the rates on the credit card are pretty similar to what you get. The cashback is not that great. So I think we're kind of in this interesting push and pull spot where on one hand, this potential that Apple has, and there's a bunch of categories I want to get into of the potential they'll have. But before that, it's just this announcement to me was not that exciting in terms of what they've actually brought to market now or what they're going to bring to market in the summer. But where that could take them, I think that is really interesting. So it's sort of like the hype, but then also the realization of like, oh wait, this is like basically the same offering that I can get today. I think there's a few different reasons why this is potentially very interesting for Apple moving forward. The first one I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier around Apple Pay. I think that we still sort of underestimate how much friction there is in the payments process. If you think about buying something online, and I still do this daily, I'm typing in credit card numbers. I'm typing in the CV, number on the back. I'm trying to remember the zip code, but I can't remember which, place I opened it. So I think there's a lot of friction to the payments process, and Apple, because of their ethos and design standards and quality that they have, I think are aiming to really remove a lot of that friction. And I think in the future, just like with checks, how less and less we're seeing checks, it's like, why do I need this plastic card at all? Why do I need to carry this with me at all? Which leads me to the next point of Apple being your key, your passport for the world. So when you have your iPhone on you, it is how you get on an airplane. It's where your tickets are held. It's where your concert tickets are held. It's now where your wallet and your cards are held. It's how you access games. Like I think that Apple owning this wallet space and your iPhone essentially being the key to the world, I think is a really interesting prospect, especially as they sort of remove some of the friction. And it's really normal, for me to go to the airport today and just use my ticket right there on my phone, thanks to Apple storing that for me. So I think that is a really big opportunity, because the more stuff you start storing on the Apple Wallet, the more incentive you have to stay in the Apple ecosystem. And this, like Amazon Prime, is a really huge opportunity for them, because when you're going to buy a service, when you're going to buy your next computer, when you're going to buy, something else that's available in the App Store, having your wallet right there connected to your device is going to make it more frictionless for you to stay in the ecosystem. And Apple wants you to stay in their ecosystem. And so if you hold your money, if you get a refund from something you bought through Apple and it sits now in your wallet, you're more likely to use that sort of like a gift card almost. Like you're holding on to this piece of cash that you know you want to use in the future, but oh, hey, by the way, it's way easier and way less friction to just use it in the Apple ecosystem. So I think that's a really big opportunity. Obviously, there's some smaller things like incentives to shop with Apple. You get a bigger cashback reward if you buy. In the future, and I think this is where other people get excited, I'm not so sure we're going to see this early on, but I can see it being a really key feature that is just like a duh for everybody in maybe 10 years, which is peer-to-peer payments. The first place I think we'll see that is in gaming. They launched some stuff around the arcade, and the idea of micropayments and microtransactions happening in a game. So you're playing Angry Birds and you want to just make a quick purchase to get a little hack, or you want to pay someone else in the game. That's where we're going to start seeing this peer-to-peer world evolve. Samsung, as we've talked about in some previous episodes, has already moved into the blockchain sort of crypto wallet native into the phone. Apple will get there, I think, eventually. But I guess hold your horses. I think it's going to be a long time frame. My prediction, I guess, for this episode is 10 years from now, Apple is a major player in this sort of market of wallet and credit cards, much bigger than we expect. But I just don't think it's going to be something that happens very quickly. And that's why we're seeing such a sort of subdued approach by them now. So I guess with that, is there anything else you want to comment on related to the points I just brought up?
Yeah, I think the biggest question mark in my head, and it's really more of a conceptual thing, not really necessarily to deal with this specific product, but how will Apple enter the sphere of blockchain? Will they ever adopt, kind of a native cryptocurrency app, or will they launch their own cryptocurrency, and how that kind of dichotomy plays out? I think that's going to be, for me, the most interesting thing play out over the next 10 years.
Yeah, we'll see Facebook make a move first. The reason why Facebook is making moves in the blockchain space is because they want you to pool more and more of your money in this ecosystem. They want to be kind of that point of contact. I think Apple has the better brand trust. I think they have the better sort of user experience trust. And I guess one last note is it has the Face ID for the payment. I know that worries a lot of people. And I think there's some stuff we're seeing in other countries around the world that makes that worrisome. But at the same time, I do think that Apple, one of the biggest things they're trying to drive forward right now with their brand is that we are the trusted brand. We care about your privacy. They're constantly doing things that point to that being a really important aspect. And I think as it relates to banking, that's something I feel pretty good about. So yeah, I don't know if I have a blockchain thesis around that now. I think they will be a later mover to that market if they do, but I see them. I see them making momentum with pay specifically and the card by extension. So yeah, it's just really there's so much to dig in here. I don't think we are either Apple experts, but it's a really fascinating space to explore in this broader conversation about financial technology. And yeah, we'll be back with more episodes here soon.
All right, see you later, David.
Yeah. See you, man.